Assalamualaikum to every audience watching, and of course to Mr. Shahri bin Muhammad Zin. I, Halisha, will first talk about the first question, which is why the demand for gas is so inelastic. Any motor vehicle, as we all know, requires gasoline to operate. If people do not have access to fuel, their daily life will be more challenging. The demand for a good may become inelastic for a variety of reasons. There are not many substitutes for gasoline, which is a good that, if used, can diminish the consumption of another good. According to Adam Hayes, an author of Investopedia, substitutes play an important part in the marketplace and are considered a benefit for consumers. They provide more choices for consumers who are then better able to satisfy their needs. In economics, products are often substitutes if the demand for one product increases when the price of the other goes up. Examples of substitute goods include tea and coffee, Coke and Pepsi, butter and margarine. Now, can we think of any substitute for gasoline? Using public transportation instead of a car is an alternative with gasoline, but availability must be ensured. Let us eliminate buses or any other public transportation that use gasoline. Maybe trains and subways can be alternatives, but how can this transportation help on being the substitutes? In most cities, let's take the United States as an example. Their citizens prefer to drive their own cars because the country is large and laced with highways. Their public transportation is not always available too. Using public transportation has major cons. One of them is public transport can be slower than traveling with personal cars due to strongly prescribed speed limits. In terms of conveniency, public transport is considered to be less convenient compared to cars by many people, including myself. This is due to the fact that if you use your car, you just have to leave your house and you are ready to go. In short, you have a full control over your own transportation, which explains why cars are chosen by many regardless of how the price of fuel has peaked over the years. This is due to the fact that if you use your car, you just have to leave your house and you are ready to go. In short, you have a full control over your own transportation, which explains why cars are chosen by many regardless of how the price of fuel has peaked over the years. Using cars that run on alternative energy like electricity is another solution that might be used. Most people cannot afford electric automobiles because they are more expensive than gas-powered cars, and because the infrastructure for charging them has not been widely established in most countries. Electric fueling stations are still in the development stages. Not a lot of places you go to on a daily basis will have electric fueling stations for your own vehicle. Meaning that if you are on a long trip or decide to visit family in a rural or suburban area and run out of charge, it may be harder to find a charging station. You may be stuck where you are, but gas stations on the other hand can be found everywhere beside the roads. When a product has few substitutes, its demand is generally inelastic. That basically means the price can change, but the amount needed does not significantly change in response. Another reason why the demand for gasoline is so inelastic is due to the fact that gasoline belongs to the category of necessity goods in which majority people utilize their cars as their primary mode of transportation, meaning that even as the goods gets more expensive, reducing consumption will be challenging. Consumers will still buy the good regardless of the changes in their income levels, therefore making these products less sensitive to income change. The good is necessary for many daily tasks. For many people, gasoline is a need for daily living and is difficult to substitute. So, this makes gasoline a necessity good since people will still look for gasoline as the main source of using their cars. In a nutshell, a rather inelastic demand for gasoline becomes obvious when these two considerations are taken into account. Demand is inelastic when a large percentage change in the price of a good will only affect a small percentage change in the quantity demanded.
My name is Kavinisha Balkis and I will present for question 2. For question 2, it says, during this era of high gas prices, consumers began to demand electric vehicles that do not require gas. Will the increase in the availability of electric cars make the demand for gas more elastic or more inelastic? Explain. It is widely understood that most consumers rely on gas purchases to go to work and hence find it difficult to reduce their gas consumption when faced with higher gas prices. Indeed, the consumer will begin to find a solution to overcome this problem. In the beginning, the demand for gas is inelastic. This is because gas is difficult to substitute and necessary to many citizens for daily life. Based on Marketplace podcast, the amount of Americans buy gases has historically been pretty inelastic, meaning it doesn't change that much when prices go up. Eventually, consumers will find a solution when the price of gas goes extremely higher. The availability of electric cars that require electric charge and does not require gas causes the consumer to desire less of gas. According to New York Times website, there are more than 3,000 respondents that buying electric cars. Driving on electricity is generally much cheaper than gas. Indirectly, consumer will buy electric cars for the benefit. Because of that, electric cars provide choices and alternatives for consumers as the gas price increase. As the gas price tends to increase, consumers are more likely to buy electric cars. At the same time, there will be demand for electric cars. The increase in the availability of electric cars will make the demand for gas more elastic. This is because there will be a potential substitute that would utilize automobiles that operate on alternative energy, which is electric charge, rather than using gas. Electric charge acts as a substitute good with gas because both can satisfy the same need to the consumer, which is the ability to travel using automobiles. The demand curve for electric cars will shift to the right from D0 to D2. Meanwhile, demand curve for normal cars that use gas will shift to the left from D0 to D1. For conclusion, gas demand becomes more elastic as consumers may trade in their cars for more fuel-efficient models or move closer to work or changing their cars into electric cars that use electric charge rather than a normal car that use gas.
I'm Ahmad Ilham, and now I will be answering question number 3, which is, do you think the supply of electric vehicle is relatively elastic or relatively inelastic? Explain. Electric vehicle supply is generally thought to be inelastic. This is because electric vehicle production is much more expensive than traditional gasoline power vehicle production, making it difficult to adjust supply in responses to changes in demand. Furthermore, the production of electric vehicle requires a significant investment in infrastructure and technology, making it difficult to react to changes in demand quickly. In addition, based on price elasticity of supply by R.D. Sharma, supply of electric vehicle is relatively inelastic means that changes in the price of electric vehicle will have a minimal effect on the amount of electric vehicle supply in the market. This is because electric vehicles are typically priced higher than gasoline and therefore their market is relatively inelastic. Additionally, electric vehicles are typically produced in limited quantities and with a high level of customization, making it difficult to adjust their supply in response to price changes. Furthermore, the availability of electric vehicle is limited by the availability of batteries and charging infrastructure, both of which can limit the ability of supplier to respond to price changes. Electric vehicle supply is also somewhat inelastic due to the price of gasoline. As the price of gasoline rises, so does the demand for electric vehicle, which in turn raises the demand for the components used to make them. This raises production costs, which raise the price of electric vehicle. This makes it difficult for manufacturers to increase production in response to changes in demand. This statement can be further strengthened with the statement from what is the price elasticity of demand for electric vehicle by Sir Gleason R. Electric vehicles are relatively inelastic good because electric vehicles are still relatively new technology and they require a large upfront investment to involving electric car technology. When gasoline price rise, consumers are more likely to switch to electronic vehicle due to the cost savings. This is because electric vehicle cost less than traditional gasoline powered car and require less maintenance. Additionally, electric vehicles are more efficient, means that they use less energy to power the same amount of distance. Electric vehicles also still have a limited range compared to gasoline power car, which can be restrictive for some consumers. Overall, I can say that electric vehicle is relatively inelastic. This is because electric vehicle require higher cost and investment, limited quantities in the market, lack of infrastructure, change in gasoline price, and the efficiency of the electric car itself. That's all from me. Thank you.
I will be answering the question number 4, which is identify one good you believe would likely have a positive cross-price elasticity with cars. And what does this imply about the relationship between these two goods? First of all, cross-price elasticity of demand is the percentage change in the quantity demanded of a given product due to the percentage change in the price of another related product. Public transport like buses have a positive cross-price elasticity with cars. These goods have the same function as it becomes the transportation, but people will need to pay different prices. So what does this imply about the relationship between these two goods? Since it is a positive, then these two goods are substitutes. The cross-price elasticity of demand for substitute goods is always positive because the demand for one good increases when the price for the substitute goods increases. Substitute products give consumer alternative choices. In this case, if the price of cars go up, the demand for public transport will also increase because some people will switch from using cars to using public transport. A car manufacturer would have to consider the sales he would lose in consequence before going ahead with a price rise. Next is question 5. The question stated that the price of electric vehicles falls from $29,493 to $25,939 and the quantity demanded increases from 7,000 to 10,000 units. We calculated the price elasticity of demand for this situation using the formula, which is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price and got 3.6. Next situation is if the firm increases price from $29,493 to $32,000, the quantity demanded decreases from 7,000 to 5,000 units. We also calculated this and got 3.4. So if ABC firm wants to increase their revenue, they should choose $25,939 price charge. This is because in this price range where the degree of responsiveness is greater than the second price option, which is 3.6 more than 3.4. When the quantity demanded increases from 7,000 to 10,000 at price 25,939, this will lead to revenue as much as $259,390,000. If ABC firm decides to go with the second price, which is at $32,000 at demand around 5,000, this will only bring them $160 million, which is lesser than the first price range.
The value of the calculation shows a positive coefficient, which means gasoline is a normal good. A normal good or necessary good doesn't refer to the quality of the good, but rather the level of demand for the good and its relationship to the increases or decreases of a consumer's income level. Demand for normal goods is determined by patterns of consumer behavior, and as income level rise, consumers can often afford goods that were not previously available to them. Normal goods have a positive income elasticity of demand, where a change in demand and a change in income move in the same direction. Quantitatively speaking, higher income normally results in more consumption of a good. The leash is longer and more ground can be covered. Goods that are treated this way by consumers are called normal goods. It's a sensible term. They are goods that consumers will buy more as their income goes up. which has to be true of most goods. Why? Because a double income has to be spent on something. So, what happens to the demand curve when income rises? If the good is a normal one, the rise in income will shift the demand curve to the right.